In the days when the world was young and the hills of Bashan rose like the bones of sleeping giants, there was a silence that brooded over the land. The oaks stood ancient and unyielding, their roots tangled in secrets, and the stones remembered the footsteps of those who were more than men. Bashan, the northernmost reach of the Old Kingdom, was a place of wild cattle and shadowed forests, of megalithic ruins and forgotten cities, where the wind carried the echo of names lost to time. Here, in the shadow of the mountains, the story of the unwanted son began. He was born in secrecy, beneath the gaze of a mother whose eyes were haunted by the memory of a king slain, and a people scattered. His father's name was never spoken, for it was a name that summoned dread. Og, last of the Rephaim, the giant king of Bashan, whose bed was of iron and whose legend loomed over the land like a storm cloud. The boy's mother, a woman of the remnant, hid him from the world, fearing both the wrath of men and the curse of blood. She called him Yaqtan, meaning he who is awakened, though in her heart she called him only my son. In the hush of dawn, when the mist clung to the valleys and the ruins of Bashan lay veiled in silver, Yaqtan would rise. His mother's hut was built among the stones of a city long dead, its walls blackened by time, its streets choked with thorns. Here, no one came. Here, the world forgot. Yaqtan's childhood was a tapestry of silence and longing. He learned to move quietly, to listen for the footfall of strangers, to vanish into the undergrowth at the first sign of danger. His mother taught him the old stories of the flood that swept the world, of the angels who fell, of the giants who once ruled the land and were swept away by the hand of God. She spoke of Bashan's glory, of cities with walls like mountains and cattle as numerous as the stars. But her voice would falter when she spoke of Og. Your father was a king, she whispered once, her eyes distant. But kings fall, and the world forgets their sons. Yaqtan did not understand. He only knew that he was different. His limbs grew long and strong, his voice deepened before its time, and his eyes saw farther than those of other children. But there were no other children, only the wind, the stones, and the watchful gaze of his mother. As the seasons turned, Yaqtan's difference became a burden. He was taller than the tallest man by the time he reached his 12th year. His hands could lift stones that would have broken the backs of shepherds. His feet left deep prints in the earth, and the cattle shied from his shadow. One day, as he wandered among the dolmens and stone circles that dotted the hill's monuments older than memory, built by hands like his own, he found a group of villagers from the lowlands. They had come to gather wood, but when they saw him, they froze. One of them, a boy not much older than Yaqtan, pointed and cried out, Rephaim, demon spawn. The others took up stones and hurled them, their faces twisted in fear. Yaqtan did not fight back. He turned and fled, his heart pounding with shame and confusion. That night, he asked his mother, why do they hate me? What am I? She wept, and for the first time, she told him the truth. You are the son of Og, last of the giants. Your blood is a curse and a promise. The world fears what it cannot understand. Yaqtan lay awake, staring at the darkness. The word giant echoed in his mind, heavy as a millstone. He remembered the stories, the Rephaim, the Nephilim, the Anakim, beings of terror and might, destroyed by the hand of God and the sword of Israel. Was he a monster? Was he doomed to share their fate? The years that followed were marked by exile. Word spread of the giant child in the hills, and soon men came with spears and torches. Yaqtan and his mother fled from ruin to ruin, from cave to cave, always pursued, never welcomed. The people of Bashan remembered Og not as a king, but as a tyrant, a symbol of all that was monstrous and accursed. In every village, Yaqtan saw the same fear in their eyes. Children hid behind their mothers, men gripped their weapons, and the elders muttered prayers against evil. He learned to keep his head bowed, to speak softly, to hide his strength. But the wound of rejection festered within him, a silent ache that grew with every passing year. His mother grew thin and weary, her spirit worn down by flight and fear. One night, as they sheltered in the ruins of Edrei, the city where Og had fallen, she pressed her hand to his cheek and whispered, You are not your father. Remember this, my son. You are not your father. But Yaqtan was not sure. The blood of giants ran in his veins, and the world would not let him forget. It was in the wilderness, among the basalt stones and the whispering oaks, that Yaqtan's power first awakened. He was 16, and his mother had fallen ill. Food was scarce, and the winter winds howled through the broken walls of their shelter. One morning, as he searched for firewood, he heard the cry of a shepherd. A wolf had taken a lamb, and the flock was scattering. Without thinking, Yaqtan ran to help. He seized a stone and hurled it with such force that it struck the wolf dead at 100 paces. The shepherd stared in awe and terror. Monster, The man cried, backing away. "You are cursed. Leave us." Yaqtan felt the old shame rise within him, but something else stirred a fierce, wild joy. For the first time, he understood the strength that lay coiled within his limbs, the power that was both gift and curse. He could lift boulders, outrun the deer, and see in the dark. He could hear the heartbeat of the earth and feel the pulse of ancient things beneath his feet. But with power came fear. The villagers spoke of him in hushed tones, calling him the son of Og, the last Rephaim, the unwanted one. They barred their doors and set traps in the night. Yaqtan withdrew deeper into the wilderness, his only companion the memory of his mother's voice. It was in the ruins of Ashtaroth, beneath a sky heavy with stars, that Yaqtan's life changed forever. His mother, weakened by illness and sorrow, lay dying. She pressed a stone into his hand, a fragment of iron, cold and heavy. "This was your father's," she whispered. "He was not only a giant in body, but in sorrow. He fell because he defied the living God. Promise me, Yaqtan, you will not follow his path." Yaqtan wept, for he loved his mother more than life. As she breathed her last, the wind rose, and the ruins seemed to shudder with the weight of memory. Alone, Yaqtan buried her among the stones, marking her grave with a circle of basalt. For 3 days and nights, he wandered the ruins, neither eating nor sleeping. He cried out to the heavens, cursing his fate, his blood, his father's name. "Why was I born?" he shouted into the darkness. "Why am I alone?" The silence answered him, vast and unyielding. On the third night, as Yaqtan sat among the shattered pillars of the ancient temple, a strange stillness fell. The wind died, and the stars burned with a cold, clear light. In the silence, he heard a voice not loud, but deep, like the roots of the mountains. "Yaqtan." He trembled, for the voice was not his own, nor the echo of memory. It was a whisper that filled the world, a presence that pressed upon his soul. "Why do you weep, son of Og?" Yaqtan fell to his knees, his heart pounding. "Because I am alone, because I am cursed, because I am not wanted." The voice replied, "You are not alone. I have seen your sorrow. I have heard your cry. The blood of giants runs in your veins, but you are more than your father's son. Rise, Yaqtan. The world has need of you." A warmth flooded him, fierce and gentle, burning away the bitterness and shame. He felt the weight of his exile lift, replaced by a sense of purpose he had never known. The voice spoke again, softer now, like the breath of dawn. "You are not your father. You are mine." Yaqtan wept, but his tears were no longer bitter. He rose, his heart filled with awe and fear, and looked to the east, where the first light of morning touched the ruins of Bashan. At the edge of the world, where the land fell away in a tumble of stone and shadow, Yaqtan stood. Below him, the ruins of Bashan sprawled like the bones of a fallen giant, silent and desolate. The wind tugged at his cloak, carrying the scent of wild thyme and the distant cry of eagles. He looked back once, to the place where his mother lay, and then forward, to the land beyond. The voice of the living God still echoed in his heart, a promise and a calling. "I am not my father," he whispered. "I am not Og. I am Yaqtan, the unwanted son, the awakened one." He spread his arms to the sky, feeling the strength in his limbs, the sorrow in his heart, and a hope that burned like a flame within him. The journey was only beginning. So ends the first chapter of the Children of Og, the tale of the unwanted son. In the ancient land of Bashan, where giants once walked and the stones remember, a new story has begun, a story of exile and awakening, of sorrow and hope, of a boy who was more than his blood. The world will remember Og as a giant, a king, a symbol of all that was lost. But Yaqtan's name will be written in the book of the living God, not as a monster, but as a son. And in the silence of the ruins, the wind will carry his story, whispering to those who have ears to hear, "You are not your father. You are called. You are known. You are not alone."